Another fly fishing company that calls Montrose, Colorado home is Abel Fly Reels. We were lucky enough to see how these reels were machined in their state of the art facility right in town. Engineer Dan Herford.
So my name's Dan Herford, and I'm a design engineer here at Mayfly Products. I'm in charge of designing new products, revision on old products, and just working through troubles that exist in the manufacturing world. Back here is where all of our bar stock comes in. Traditionally, it takes the form of big, long pieces of extruded aluminum, and then we will use our automated saw to cut those parts into what we call pucks. And then this is what will end up making your frame and spool for the reel. With these types of machines is how Ross and Abel started, like we were talking about, taking those pucks down through the operations required to produce a finished spool or frame. This particular part has only undergone one operation. It will then go through a few more before it's a finished spool or frame, and then it will be processed and anodized. If we come to some of these newer machines, we're able to go from that cut puck that I was showing earlier into a near finished part in just one operation. Doing this method of manufacturing is able to give us a lot less human error into the process, and also just speed up how we're able to process these reels and keep quality through the process. Continuing with that method of manufacturing we were talking about, a machine like this with a robot, we're able to load those pucks and basically consistently keep that running as long as we have a job that needs parts. So basically, as soon as customer demand comes through, we can load up programs and pucks into this robot, and it'll basically run all night and produce finished parts in one operation. So in general, those are the few different ways that we process frames and spools for reels, but that's just part of the story. We then need to produce all the small parts and components that go into making a full reel. So over here are some of the places that we make small parts. If we look at this machine right here, he's just started a new run, and these are SDF spindle housings. So some of our reels take up to 30 plus components to make the finished reel. Most people just think of a frame and a spool when they think of a reel, but we're also producing all the different unique parts for each reel, both large and small. Once parts are finished in the machine shop, they take their way over to handwork. You can see some of these parts in a machine shop, at the very least, get a little bit dirty, and they'll need cleaned up or even hand worked, as in deburring and cleaning up blemishes before they're finished and sent off to be anodized and then received and assembled. These parts go from a relatively rough state off of the machine, and then they come to handwork, where, as you can see, Rebecca here is actually cutting away burrs before they're then tumbled and then sent to anodize. Once the parts are finished through handwork, then they are finally ready to go to what we call pre-store. And that is where they will sit until the customer's demand requires that they be sent out to be anodized, received back, and assembled. So here we have a store of ready parts. If you were to compare this finish to a part straight off of a machine, you would notice it's much smoother, and there are no sharp edges or anything that might snag or impede the function of the reel in use. In general, those are the processes to create a frame, a spool, and then all the small components needed to make up a reel. Different families going across the shop right now, but this sort of line is how we do things in general.